So having boundaries, okay, knowing how you expect people to act. Now look, this gets us into an interesting conversation. This opens up a kind of a fun can of worms, doesn't it? Here's a question I get asked sometimes. Okay, so if having a strong sense of reality means that you have a strong set of boundaries, if that is what it means, well, what if somebody starts messing with you? Right? You guys ever known someone who's just really negative and just tries to pick fights and disputes with people to drag them down into their reality? So how do you handle that? If you have personal boundaries, have you guys ever heard kind of like, not even heard of, but recognize the idea that when you're willing to fight, you're less likely to get in a fight? Okay, does anyone here take martial arts? Okay, do you guys find, from being in martial arts, do you feel like you guys get in less confrontations because of the vibe that you put out? Yeah? Who here knows how to like verbally spar with other guys and sort of like tool other guys? Anyone know how to do that? Do you guys feel that by knowing how to do that, you actually don't even really need to use it that often because guys can just sense that off of you? Okay? So it's the same kind of thing. So a lot of the time when you establish a personal boundary, right? Like when you say, look, these are the boundaries, in a lot of ways it can avoid confrontation because people get that vibe off of you that you are not someone who's going to be walked all over. And typically, you know what's funny? People who are very sadly stuck in that kind of predatory jackal mode are typically, tend to be the types that want the easy targets, aren't they? Right? Like the same people that are out to tool people and just cause, we call it muckrakers or shit disturbers. They tend to want to go for the easy targets. That's just a tendency. Not always. Some people want to prove themselves, but that tends to be the way. So, what's that?
I don't know what they're getting into.
Sure. Yeah. So the thing is like, where does the line between establishing personal boundaries start versus just getting sucked into other people's nonsense? That's the question that you'd have to ask yourselves, right? Where on one level are you saying no? Like for example, say that a girl flakes on you, right? Say a girl flakes you out. Do you call her up and say, hey, that is not acceptable? Or do you just kind of say, oh yeah, whatever, like as if you didn't even care? And this is kind of a dilemma that's been around in the community for a long time, and there's no one perfect answer. Like when the girl says she's going to flake, do you draw the boundary on her and say, no, that's not acceptable. If you're going to do that, we're not talking anymore. And do you draw the boundary? Or do you play it kind of like, oh yeah, that's all good, I'm busy with my friends, whatever, no big deal, right? For example, when I met my girlfriend, she flaked me, I think, 3 times before she came out. Each and every one of those times, I really was busy. So I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, don't worry about it. She says that she thought I was fronting, right? But I really wasn't. Like I really was busy those times. But then eventually she came out. If I had said to her, what? You get down here right now. You made plans. I can guarantee you she would have hung up and it wouldn't have gone anywhere. On the other hand, sometimes by being too tolerant. Have you guys ever had a girl who you were too tolerant with flaking to and she just kept doing it over and over and over? Mm-hmm. Right? So where's the boundary? Well, the best way I could say it is a case-by-case basis, isn't it? It's a case-by-case basis. Likewise, look, when you're out at a nightclub and people start trying to pick fights with you, right? Because sometimes guys will do that, they'll get up in your face. When do you kind of put your foot down and say, yo, no, right? Versus when do you kind of just like not get sucked into it? Me, generally speaking, I don't like to fuel and feed into negativity because my outlook is this. If I'm in a positive state, I don't want other people dragging me down. That's how I think about it, right? Like, look, some people are just in a negative state and they live in a negative reality and they can't help themselves. They keep trying to suck people in. I remember there's an example I might use tomorrow where I was at a Denny's. You guys know how Denny's is 24 hours? Right? Like, we'd never go there if it wasn't 24 hours, so it's obviously 24 hours, right? That's the unique selling point, all right? It's not like the fries. So, unless you like those. But the point is that, customer value proposition of Denny's is it's 24 hours. So I walk into a Denny's, and the manager comes up and he says, we're closed. Okay? And I said, you're not closed. Very politely. He goes, no, we're closed. I'm like, no, you're not. I just walked over here. You're not closed. He's like, this is closed. And I could feel the negativity seeping off of him, right? And I just want to hit him in the face. You know what I'm saying? You ever see someone that they just like their face just has like that punch me sign on it, right? And that's what I'm feeling in my body. Like, why? Why do I feel this compulsion to do this? And then I realize, I'm like, no. This guy is negative. All right. I mean, I hate to throw value judgments like that, but this guy's acting. He's clearly stuck in a negative mode, and I'm being drawn into it. So I go, look, obviously there's no solution. So I walk up to the waitress, I say, is it closed? She says, no, that section is closed. So isn't that funny, right? Like, that guy, he unconsciously, and this was not like a dummy. He was like well-spoken enough. He knows unconsciously that he's creating negativity. Like, it's like Eckhart Tolle called it, like the pain body. He's looking for fuel for the pain body. He's looking for more fuel for that negativity. What's that?
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company, right? He wants to be in a bad mood. He wants to suck me in. So I could have said, what? Fuck you. This shit is open. Fuck you, right? I could have said that and drawn a boundary. But is that really a smart way to go with this? Of course not. Right? So I just played it cool. So I didn't draw a boundary. So you know what boundary that is? You know what I would call that? Rather than being an external boundary, I would call that a self-boundary. Knowing your own personal boundaries of what you accept from yourself. For example, you guys ever heard the expression, I will not accept second-rate behavior? That goes for you and for me. You guys ever heard that expression? It's a great one. You don't accept second-rate behavior, neither from other people or yourself. Sometimes the boundary is within yourself, and you don't draw the boundary. All right? Sometimes you do. But regardless, having looked at this conversation, we've considered what boundaries are. We now know the first three pillars of a strong reality. What's number one? What's number two? What's number three? Very good. All right. Lastly, how people should act around you. Should it be fun? Should it be value offering? That's the last pillar. So again, identity, what you value, what your personal boundaries are, and how you expect people to act around you. So here's a great one. Look. Say that you walk up to a girl, and she starts acting obnoxious. What most guys will do is they're like, oh, she's acting obnoxious. Is this my fault? They don't know what it is. What I'll often do is either I'll imitate it back, like I'll just pipe back at her what she said, right? If she's just acting silly, I'll just pipe it back at her in like some funny way, right? If she's like, oh, you're being a jerk, I'm like, oh, you're being a jerk. You're being a jerk. Okay? Just pipe it back at her. Or, even more importantly, the thing is like, you have to know how you expect people to act. You know a great expression? It's like, yo, just be cool. Right? Hey, just be cool. It's okay, you know? If a girl's not acting the way that you want, you could call her out. Oh, just be cool, right? Look, generally speaking, you want to have an expectation for how you expect people to act around you. All right? It's your reality. How do you expect people to act around you? Do you expect them to be having fun? Do you expect them to be value-offering human beings? So, for example, look, whatever price tag you put on yourself is your price. If you take a girl out and you do not expect her to offer mutual value in return, she's not going to, most of the time, right? So look, do you tolerate, do you want to date girls who don't know what they want? Here's an example, right?
Most girls don't know what they want.
But you have to impose that reality on them so that they can realize it. And that's the thing. He says most girls don't know what they want, but you must bring that reality to them. So essentially, look, when you're with a girl, if she doesn't know what she wants, it's like, what is this? Are we in 10th grade here? Like, is your mom going to come downstairs with cookies and milk? What's going on here, right? Do you know what you want or not? And that doesn't even need to be verbalized. It's not like, hey, do you know what you want or not? Like, I mean, you might say that if you felt like it, but the point is that it's not even about verbalizing it. It's about, look, I date girls that know what they want, all right? If a girl goes for me, I'm not thinking bad of her. I'm like, look, I appreciate that. She's decisive. She knows what she wants. Isn't that funny, right? A lot of guys are like, they're so judgmental of girls. The girls go, fine, if you're going to judge me, I'm going to make you take me out for 6 months before we hook up, right? On the other hand, if you have a frame of, look, I like a girl that knows what she wants. She's decisive. She makes her choices. If she knows what she wants, she goes for it, okay? I'm a big boy. I know girls have had sex before, right? I get it, okay? So look, I don't have a Madonna whore complex, right? So the thing is that knowing what you expect from people. You expect people to be fun. And how do you impose this kind of a reality? Well, look, say that you're talking to a girl and she's being fun, and then suddenly she stops being fun. Are you just going to keep providing the entertainment? Or is it kind of like, whatever, right? And then if she wants back into the circle of happiness, okay, we call it the circle of happiness, then she has to bring back that value. Likewise, when people are talking to you, here's an interesting one. If you want to draw people to actually do their best, to be the best they can be around you, set the standard. If what they say, think of it this way. Hello, hello. All right, look. Say that is the interesting level, okay? We will call this the scale of interesting. Or we could call it the scale of cool. If what she says is interesting enough, and it's up here, you will pay attention and respond. If what she says is right here, then maybe you'll respond, maybe you won't. And if what she says is completely uninteresting, you may not respond at all. That is called, I expect people to be fun and interesting around me, all right? And the thing is, when you have that set standard, people will be a lot more likely to bring their best selves to you, all right? To be the best person that they can be to you. Do you want to know what one of my personal standards is? Authenticity. That's one of mine. So if someone is speaking to me through the ego, or speaking to me through a character, or looking at me as an object and not as a human being, I'm not going to take them seriously. I'm not likely to have a serious conversation with them. Because it's inauthentic. So I could care less about it. I don't want anything to do with that. All right? Now, on the other hand, and again, this comes down to paradox. What if somebody is not speaking with me authentically? One choice is just to blow them off and not respond, or to respond sarcastically. What would be another option that could help me to establish the kind of reality in life that I want to live?
Thread cut.
What's that?
Just cut the thread. Don't
cut the thread off. Yeah, right? Just, you can cut the thread. Sure. What else?
tell them. Explain why.
Explain it. Yeah. You can explain it, but sometimes when you explain it, will they take it well or will they resist? They might resist, but sometimes they will listen, right? So that's definitely a strategy. What else could we do to get people to act more authentically around us?
Act authentic yourself.
Act authentic yourself. Go first. Don't judge them.
Right.
That's right. You see, and look, let's not descend into a mindset like, I am authentic, and I'm just not going to talk to anyone who's not authentic to me. Oh my God, right? I'm not trying to get that kind of a mindset out there, okay? What I'm trying to communicate, though, is like, when someone is speaking with you inauthentically, you can communicate with them from your own higher self and not judge them for when they're acting like that. And do you remember how I said this before? They can just kind of, they've got all that tension, this big ego, right? This big sense of self, very rigid, and they can just go, and they can relax around you. And when you get good at it, you can get 90% or so of people to just really drop their personas around you and really communicate with you authentically. Then, of course, there's always that 1-10% that's just, they're just not ready for that, right? They're just not going to communicate with anyone authentically. They're too stuck in their heads. Sometimes my buddy Nathan calls it a break in the clouds, right? You see a little bit of ray coming in, a little break in the clouds. You're like, oh, that's refreshing. And the clouds come back, and then they're off in whatever land they're living in. What's that?
Self-disqualifying.
Mm-hmm. So look, the strength of your reality, okay? So we talked about the 4 pillars. Identity, knowing who you are, knowing what you value, knowing what your personal boundaries are, and knowing how you expect people to act. Does this sound at all like what the naturally popular kids in high school were like a lot of the time?
Yes.
Real similar, huh? Very, very similar. Sometimes we describe relationship with women like you are the oak tree and she is a squirrel running around. All right? So you're on your path. Kind of say you're with your girlfriend, you're kind of just walking and she can kind of scoot around. Because if you're trying to follow her all the time, how does that make her feel? She feels like she's got to be the boss now. Oh, I guess I'm the boss. Okay, I can't be me. I've got to be the boss.
You're needy.
Right? Or it could be needy. Does that mean that now, and again, newbie misinterpretation alert, right? How could this be misinterpreted? Someone hears this and they're like, okay, whenever I'm around a woman, I just must walk straight lines. Many series of straight lines, right? Oh, she went over there, I can't follow. I'll just walk this way, okay? It's not like that, all right? Common sense, okay? Use common sense. Just use your heads, guys, all right? It's not a rule, okay? It's just a principle. It can be broken at any time you like. You can even break all the rules and still be successful sometimes, so don't panic. All right, now look, just like a muscle is strengthened by being broken down repeatedly, the same goes for your reality. Think about how you build a muscle. Guys, is a muscle built, when you lift in the gym, is your muscle getting bigger or stronger during the actual time you're lifting? It's a trick question.
No. No.
It's getting smaller, right? It's getting inflated with blood, yeah, but technically speaking, and it's a very micro fraction here, your muscle is actually getting smaller. When does recovery happen? Recovery happens during sleep and from eating. That's why the three pillars of weight training is eat, sleep, train, and all three are equally important. So, eat, sleep, train. Well, likewise, challenging your reality, putting yourself into situations where your reality could break down, putting yourself in situations that test your sense of reality. All right? Look, I'm going to Africa this summer. All right? I was planning to go in 2009. Looks like I'm going this summer now. I found out last week. So when I go to Africa, am I going to go there, sitting there in Johannesburg, well known, one of the most dangerous cities in the world? Am I going to be sitting there like, oh, I feel great right now. Like, I feel so confident in everything. In a new city, in a new continent. Of course not. Okay? And that may break down my reality. But it's in retrospect, coming back from that I will reach a greater level of centeredness, one would hope. Now, when we think about what we do to challenge our reality, all right, what kinds of experiences that we have, we call this living on your edge. All right? A man always has to be leaning into his fears all the time. Leaning in. Maybe not all the time. There's a time to relax. There's a time not to relax, right? But you always want to be leaning into your fears a little bit. Pushing your capabilities. Why? Because every year of your life you're getting older and you want to be growing. What doesn't grow, what doesn't move, it becomes stagnant. All right? What doesn't go, what isn't evolving is stagnating typically. This is why as a man ages, as you age as a man, every year that goes by, your reality is getting stronger and stronger if, and only if, you are leaning into your fears and into your potential a little bit. And every effect in this world compounds, right? If you don't brush your teeth, you're not going to have a cavity explode in your face immediately. But over the years, the holes will come, tooth decay. And likewise, if you lift weights, you're not going to get bigger immediately. But over the years, you grow. Now, the same thing goes with your sense of reality, all right? And your own core ability to stay centered amidst chaos. So look, let's say that you think of most guys who you know in their 50s. Because this is a younger audience. We have some 50-year-olds in here and older, but look, most of us in here are, 30s, 40s, 20s. Think of most guys that you know in their 50s and 60s. Would you like to be like what you see in most guys in their 50s and 60s? Does anyone here like the way that is? Because I could see that, blissful indifference, right? Okay? Could be cool. But it's definitely not what I want. How does this happen? Do you believe that a man of 60 should be more glorious than he is at 30? Or more broken down? How about even at 70 or 80? The same, right? Okay, more. Absolutely. And see, so why is it then that so many people, as they get older, are so fucking senile and broken and just not in touch with what's going on? Yeah, like when you live like a chode, right? Yeah, when you live as a chode, your chodeliness increases. Okay? Okay? Like, a chode at 20, or say a chode at 35, will tend to be, not always, but will tend to be a greater chode at 45, and a greater chode at 55, and a hardcore chode beyond chode. So chody, you don't even need to call him a chode anymore, at 65. An elder chode, that's right. Okay? All right. The elder chode, what's that? He's a choda. Yeah, he's a choda. All right? Okay? The great chode. So, look, that one could have hit or miss with it. Okay, that's totally could hit or miss. Okay, look, so, you guys, see, this is why we make our reality funny, right? So you can just walk down the street and see shit like Choda, yeah, right? You just give yourself a laugh, right? Okay, yeah. So look, yes, it's kind of like, okay, you gotta quit while your head, okay? Okay, so look. I told him to quit while he's ahead. Okay, so look. The thing is, with okay, quit while you're ahead. Okay, look. It's okay. Look, with as you age, of course, if you look to other people to create your values, right? You're looking to other individuals to tell you how to live. You're not staying fresh. You're losing your sense of calibration. You're not interacting with people, right? Like, that's kind of like the classic, like older guy. He's like, that's groovy. Is that still cool? The word groovy, right? He's like confused. He's like, right? And that's the classic thing. Of course, if the guy is actually totally centered, he's like, that's groovy, right? Then actually those older expressions could be cool. But the point is, he's not even sure of that, right? He's like, he's trying to use some other expression from his era that he was never sure about in the first place and is no longer sure if it works now. So typically, that's what can happen. Now look, you can also see guys that as they get older, really shine. Just really shine. They really come into their own. And I've never met the guy, but an example that might be the case would be like, remember the old husband of Heidi Klum? The one she had the first kid with? He's like a 57-year-old dude from Europe, right? And you have to ask yourself, what's that?
My old neighbor.
That's your old neighbor?
Yeah.
You lived next door, where, in Italy or where?
No, Dollar Crest.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Was he a cool guy or what's the deal?
Weird.
He's weird, yeah? Okay. So how'd he get Heidi then?
Soccer.
Soccer? He's a good soccer player? Yeah, he scored a goal in front of her or something? No? She's like, oh, yes, right? Okay, so basically, I always figured that, like, because when you look at Heidi Klum, right, she's already pretty well off, So so this guy was wealthy, but you can't say that it was from the money, right? One thing that money can do is when you have a lot of money, but by the way, I'll give you an equally effective alternative in a second, so don't panic. You're fucking damn it, right? When you have a lot of money, you can very easily structure a situation where you're very at ease in your own reality, can't you? You have the resources to. If you've got, you ever see the movie Goodfellas when he like takes the girl out and he's like, yeah, and like, saying what's up to all the bouncers and stuff like that, and he's having fun and he's pulling her into his reality? Well, of course, a rich dude can do that real easy. You know who else can do that though? Any bum on the street. Okay? In Honolulu, do you know who gets laid more than anyone else on the island? The weed dealers that live and sleep on the beach. You know why? Because they're at ease in their own reality. Some tourist girl comes in, she's like, oh, like that. And this guy, who just sleeps on the beach and surfs all day, and he's kind of a hippie, and he's fun, and he's different, he does what the fuck he wants when he wants. And that guy has been living on the island for 25 years. Of course, he's going to be able to pull her into his reality, right? And you know that whoever will marry this girl someday is like, my sweetheart has very high standards. Thank goodness I drive this nice vehicle so that I could get her. It's like, yo, dude, your girl hooked up with the weed dealer on the beach, okay? Right? Okay? And that's fine. I joke about it, but actually a girl's sexual history means absolutely nothing to me, okay? Because it's completely arbitrary. But the point is that it's like he's thinking that he had to he had to build it up by all these rat races he's been running his whole life. It's like, thank God I ran that rat race. It's like, well, look, if you ran the rat race for yourself, great. If you wanted to do it, great. But it wasn't for the girl, it was for you. So, again, anyone can pull a girl into their reality as long as you are happy and at home in your reality. The guys who are the best with women have little places that they like to go. Maybe they have these little places they like to go and things like that. And if you're traveling, then you're the type of person who's very good at making your home wherever. You're very, very good at wherever you go is your home. All right. Now, as you age, why does your reality get stronger? Well, think about this. What happens? Long and short of it, you go through more bullshit. Simple, right? The long and short of it is, the older you are, the more bullshit you have seen. Think of it this way. Any one of you guys in this room, every single one of you, and anyone listening at home, probably has their own stories that they've seen. Some tough times that they've seen, right? And at the time, you felt that they were horrible. But would you change any of those? I mean, unless there was something irreversibly bad happen, in which case you may wish to change it. But other than something irreversible, right? I'm talking a death or something really extreme. Other than that, is there anyone who would want to change what they've been through? Because in a lot of ways, what you go through, that's the purification of the spirit, right? That's when you go through that. And look, that doesn't mean to get addicted to pain, right? Because that can happen too. Once you piece it together, that going through difficult experiences is what can really make you stronger, You could even reach a point where you are addicted to turmoil. You get addicted to chaos. And to me, that's when the means has become the end. All right? The means has then become the end in itself. And that is no good, right? Okay? Going through chaos as an end in itself is not necessarily a good addiction. But for the most part, the experiences that what you have is what makes you who you are. And so, I mean, should I say it's what makes you who you are? I mean, you have a core essence as who you are, but those experiences help you get more towards that core essence. Would that be a better way of saying it?
Yeah.
Like you have that core essence of you, and the difficult experiences that you go through help to strip back the layers towards that core. I guess that would be a better way of saying it.
If you live on your edge and your integrity.
Yes, if you live on your edge and on your integrity. So, look, some people are lucky, all right? Sorry, I don't even want to say lucky. I mean, some people grow up in situations that are very, very conducive to building a strong reality. So, for example, let's say that you have there's sweeping generalizations, but let's say that you have a cute baby, right? The baby's very good looking, very cute. And the mom's like, oh, this is such a cute baby. And then everybody says, oh, this is such a cute baby. And he grows up and they go, oh, he's such a cute little kid. And then, he becomes handsome at a young age, right? Oh, he's so handsome and that kind of thing. Maybe he's smart at a young age, okay? Well, of course, that guy is going to have an easiness about him, right? Have you ever seen, take a Vincent Chase from the show Entourage, right? He has that, the character played by Adrian Grenier or something, yeah? Awesome, right? He has a sort of an easiness about him because he's the guy that's, he's always been getting laid, et cetera, right? Like, guys that get laid at a young age, they don't really tend to go through that crippling fear of women and of the unknown throughout high school, right? And so, some of us grow up with that easiness, and it's no problem. But most of us, we have to go through things to arrive at a stronger reality. And see, most guys run away and spend their lives running away from the very situations that would make them closer to the core of who they are. The experiences that would bring you closer to the core, most people try to run away from them. Because in many ways, our society doesn't have those same kind of initiation structures or initiation rituals or culture of sort of manliness, that kind of testosterone culture. And of course, as a result, guys do all sorts of silly, crazy things, right? When you don't have, as a kid, you may have that desire to prove yourself. And so instead of, going through a ritual that society has structured for you to find your adult man inside of yourself, you wind up getting into fights or stealing things or getting into trouble at school and things like that. And that's definitely what happened. I was always in trouble because I felt this emptiness. I wanted to do something. I wanted to prove myself. And so I was always kind of getting into trouble all the time growing up. Because I didn't have the challenges that were set in front of me. My only challenge was to go to school and don't get in trouble. That was it, Then I got into sports a little bit, and that definitely helped. That's why sports is very, very important. Regardless, look, when we think about guys that are good looking, right? Think about guys that are good looking. It's very common that they're successful with women because in their minds, their concept of reality is of course, I'm good looking, that's why women like me. So you remember how we said, hello, my name's Tim, right? And he can just go up? Well, that's because it has pieced into his reality that girls like him just for him. A kid that has grown up exceptionally bright or good looking or well off, he's going to tend to have that natural sense of entitlement to approach people. And so that's a quality that lends to a lot of success with women. It's going to lend to tremendous success with pulling girls when they sense that sort of a thing. So what if you don't have it, right? What if you didn't get that? Well, then what? Then what? You're done? Of course not. You go and you get it. You go and you get that for yourself. And that comes through experiences. That comes through strengthening your reality. All right? So you go out, and what do? What's our process? What is our process in the Success with Women community? 2 words. Oh yeah, progressive desensitization and go out. Okay? Get out of your house. Go out. So we go out. And isn't it funny that most guys, when asked, did you have a good night tonight? If they had a lot of validation from women, They say that they had a good night. But I don't think like that. And I never did think like that. I never put a value judgment on my night. Any night out where you have accumulated more reference experiences is a good night. True or not true? True. Of course. So the thing is that you don't need to put a value judgment on it. I think there comes a point when you've had so many bad nights in a row that you can start to really feel down. And I think that that may not be the most healthy thing. But you know what? You have to experience adversity. This is why when you go out, you try the challenging approaches. You try the tough ones. You try the ones that intimidate you. The operative term is this: learn to laugh at yourself. Could you guys do that? Do you think everyone here could learn to laugh at themselves? I want you to think in your minds right now, just indulge me on this bizarre seminar experiment of your big concept of who you are. Like, think of yourself in your most egotistical, grandiose image, okay? Like the most pimpness that you could see yourself, okay? Like, you know when you're having a really great night and you can just indulge in these feelings of superiority? I want you to really think about that image that you cling to, all right? Is everyone thinking of it? Now, can we just laugh at it? Like this. Come on! All right? Oh, man. Because you need to learn how to do that. All right? In all seriousness. Okay? That big pimp image that you cling to, like, oh, I'm this big, amazing guy. Look, it's fine to think that, but on another level, you have to learn how to laugh at yourself and how to let that go. Because when you get approach anxiety, in many ways, it is for fear of challenging that reality. Let go of trying to control what people think of you. Okay? But how do I stop caring what people think of me? Let go. All right? It's like this. Guys, how do I drop the marker? Okay? How? No, let go. Okay? It's like right here. Okay? Tell me to drop the marker. Pull it from me. No, right? Pull harder. Okay. Isn't that nicer? Okay? Isn't that nicer than this food? Okay? Okay? Isn't it nicer to just relax and just let go of what people think of you? Okay? Let it go. Put yourself out there. Express your personality freely without thinking you have something to lose. And let go what people think of you. Hey, look, you're not going to get that just from hearing it now. Or maybe some of you will. But at least if you have something to shoot at, you can do it. Look, as you go through more experiences, what happens? You get more self-knowledge in terms of what you're capable of. Okay? You find the lesson contained in the experience. All right? Have you guys ever heard that expression? Find the spiritual lesson contained within the experience? And when I say spiritual, I'm talking about religion. Okay? I'm talking about that core sense of who you are. Find that core lesson that's contained inside the experience. Anytime that something difficult happens to you, ask yourself, where is the lesson contained in this experience? And look, the more that your reality gets broken down, the more that your reality becomes stronger as time goes on. How does that work? Well, say that you get shot down. You're shot down. It's tough, huh? Is it tough?
Yes.
Getting shot down. Okay? You're there, right? We think of that big pimp image. That big pimp image that you have of yourself. And you get shot down. Right? Well, what happens to the big pimp image then? Right? And so you learn to stop looking towards secondhand opinions to find your sense of self. You stop self-seeking in other people's reactions to you. That is what this is about. That is what going out is about. You get, one, social calibration because you have social experience under your belt. You learn all the little subtle social dynamics. Talked about in that Foundations. But number two, you learn by trial by fire to stop seeking the self in other people's opinions. My friend Kieran says, if there's any integrity in there, if there's even a little drop of integrity inside you, then when you go through that fire, the more fire that you blast onto it, the more it melts off all the shit and all the goober and gets at that core piece of integrity that's inside of you. And then from there, that seed can then grow. All right? No matter what you go through. When you go through a lot, when your reputation gets tampered with, when you have people speak badly of you and think badly of you, that will melt off all the nonsense, and that little core piece of integrity is what's left. And that is what grows. Now, all right, so you stop looking to find yourself in the opinions of others. What happens? You start to carry yourself more confidently, and the same girls who used to blow you off suddenly start becoming attracted. Has anyone here, since getting involved in this, found out, or even had the experience, one or the other, that they could now get with that girl that originally drove them into it? Good. Good, right? That same girl that just ruined you at one point, you come into this, she wouldn't give you the time of day before, and now you could go back to her so simply and so easily. Of course, what you want is now changed. Because chances are, if she was with you when she was a chode, you probably want a different kind of girl once you've evolved. Probably, not always. So look, inch by painstaking inch. That is the quality here. All right? And the expression is, with every inch by painstaking inch, you do what is called this. That is what I want for you guys. And we're going to be covering a lot of this tomorrow. This is what we're going to be going into tomorrow in a great deal when we start off, all right? Coming into your power, okay? Wouldn't that be like a good, like cheesy self-help novel title? Right? Coming into your power, right? And I could be on the front like, okay? With Tyler. Coming into your power with Tyler. Okay, right? Ah, if only, okay? One can dream. So look, what coming into your power is like, I mean, this is something we could really talk about. We're going to have to talk about it tomorrow. But look, what coming into your power really means is that you're coming into your power as a man. You have made the distinctions about the world that you need to make to feel at home in your world. I want you guys to think about that. The more distinctions that you have about the world, the more at home you feel in the world. But there's two layers to this. Is this getting complicated? I hope it's not too complicated. There's two layers to it. Because in coming into your power, you have internal distinctions, but you also make external distinctions, right? So, external distinctions. What are some of the external distinctions that we make when going out and meeting women? What about, what her reactions mean? How about things like, okay, when you bring the girl home, you don't say, let's go and fuck now. Is that a good thing to say? Right? What happens if you say to a girl, okay, let's go to my house and have some sex? Would you be in the mood to go up and end our night out with some sex? Why is that most of the time, not always maybe, but most of the time, going to result in a no-go?
They have like a social conditioning.
Social conditioning. Exactly, right? Women are socially conditioned. I don't want to be perceived as a slut. I don't want to be perceived as easy, so I'm not going to do that. Great, that's fine. Those are like the external distinctions that we made. Likewise, when we learn how to interact with other men, because you know what? For a woman to see that you know how to interact with other men and that you know how to interact with society in general, that's also a very attractive quality. So you see, those are the external distinctions, right? For example, when you go into a new environment, say that you start going out in Hollywood. I'm using the Hollywood example because we're in Los Angeles. Say you start going out in the Hollywood scene. There's certain styles of interaction, right? There's certain social dynamics that are at play. I wish I could do a program on every type of social dynamic in every situation I've ever been into, but that would take forever, all right? But bottom line, and they change, right? So by the time I put something out, it would change. But the thing is that there's all those external social dynamics. And when you know all the external social dynamics, and not just social dynamics, but dynamics about the world, you know how to survive in your environment. You know how to get by. You're someone who has made distinctions about life. That's attractive. But even beyond that, we have internal distinctions. internal distinctions that we've made about ourselves that allow us to melt into the environment wherever we are. All right? I'll talk more about that later, but to sort of glean over it, that comes down to not being stuck in your head, not sheltering yourself in existing assumptions, existing beliefs, and being, as I say, in the moment. And being able to walk into a situation, rooted in yourself, and allow it to unfold and to merge into that situation. All right? That's called being dynamic, versatility. All right? And in a certain way, you can reach a point where you can melt into any environment, and you do have that versatility, and that comes from knowing how to perceive the world, isn't it? That comes from knowing how to be in the world. And that comes from having screwed up by hanging on to old beliefs, and then realizing that you must have a fresh set of eyes, all right? Remember we talked about first-hand experience, second-hand experience? When you're going into a new environment, you can't rely on second-hand experience very well, can you? Except a little bit, maybe what you read before you go there. For the most part, you have to be in the moment and rely on your own set of eyes. And that's going to mean, like, say, look, when you start going out to nightclubs that are intimidating, right, which I would encourage all of you to do, find the most exclusive and intimidating nightclubs that you can, and like a giant locust nest, descend upon them and Sarge. Okay? No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, seriously. Okay? Right? I'm sure the exclusive club owners would be thrilled about this. But look, really, go to the clubs, because I can say this fully knowing that most people won't do it. Do it! When you go into that new environment, all right, and you don't have all the distinctions, learn the process that it takes to go out and make them. Keep challenging yourself, all right, to do new things. Okay? Those are the internal distinctions, learning the distinctions of how you must be in your own head. You know what else that comes down to? Learning what thoughts that you allow into your head and what thoughts you don't allow into your head. As you age, you learn a little something about victim thinking. You learn a little something about feeling sorry for yourself. You learn a little something about fear, don't you? You learn that, hey, this fear isn't helping me. This is not going to help me. I've learned that when I have to work a 20-hour day for 4 or 5 days in a row before a launch, and I'm like ready to lose my mind, I've learned, hey man, don't start complaining or creating an identity out of this or whining, because that's not going to help. Because last time I whined about it, it didn't help me at all. It was bad. So these are distinctions that you make that push you towards a strong reality, okay? And that's what I want you guys to do and to take out of this, is to push yourselves towards that strong reality. These are the distinctions that you make. And you know what? You can learn every pickup tactic in the world. And they can help you to get conversations going, and they can help structure opportunities for you. But this is through living. This is called living, and what makes you an attractive guy. And you can imagine that when you have this stuff down, finding a girlfriend or to get laid tonight becomes pretty damn easy. All right? It becomes what you would call an afterthought. Okay? Really. Of course, some guys have this stuff down and don't know how to do approaches. Some guys know how to do approaches and don't have this stuff down. Right? And some guys know how to do both. You want to be the guy that knows how to do both. I guess the way I would cap it off is this, before moving to the next topic. In a pack of like wolves, for example, you have the alpha male. And sometimes the alpha male is the most virile, strong wolf in the pack. But sometimes the alpha male is just the oldest and most experienced wolf who knows how to exert the least amount of effort and still run circles around the younger ones that are stronger. And you see, that's the thing, right? As you age, you may not have the same mental capacities that a younger person has in terms of the gray matter that's up in your head, in terms of the sharpness. But when you've been living in the right way for years and years and years, you have just a total level of control. My buddy Alex was telling me, okay, that he was out, and he was with this girl that he would rate as like being basically a perfect 10. And he saw her out at the Mondrian Hotel. So he sees her and he runs over and he jumps on the bed, right? Because he'd met her earlier, okay? He'd met her earlier on, like on a different night. So he comes over and she's kind of into him. And he had asked her an opinion opener, okay? Now this girl, even though she was only 19, has a 55-year-old boyfriend, okay? So this guy comes over and says, well, why is this girl's a perfect 10? She's dating an older man. Why? Well, he comes over and she's like, I don't know. Let me ask my boyfriend. And she asks him, hey, John, what do you think of this? And he's like, son, why are you asking girls this nonsense? Pipe down, right? And he's like, oh, yes, sir. Okay, right? Okay. This wasn't Alex from RSC, by the way. This is another friend of mine named Alex. And it was, well, I'm specifying that in case someone asked him about it. Like, that wasn't true. But anyway, look. Basically, what happened was, even though my buddy Alex had a stronger pickup skill set than, say, this 55-year-old dude, the 55-year-old dude is more centered in his reality. So when he goes, hey, why are you asking girls that? What's going on, right? And then he's just kind of like a little puppy, you know, tucks his tail between his legs and just moves on, all right? And that's what aging doesn't. That's what this means. Because that man had come into his power, all right? That's the direction that I want you guys. I want you always moving, not towards choda-ness, okay? I want you moving towards coming into your power. So every day that you live, look, you can take a break, okay? Cool to take breaks. Not every day of your life has to be an intense push, all right? But generally speaking, ask yourself, am I moving like, look, if it's a very subtle thing, okay? If we're talking real subtle, and there's two paths, okay? Chode and what's a one-word thing that we could use for a big pimp? Dechoded. Why don't we call it a lord? As per Tim. Okay? Lordship. All right? Chodness versus lordship. And you're here. Where are you moving towards? On a day-to-day basis, are you moving towards there? Where is your compass pointed? All right? Every day, you have to know that, and you have to ask that to yourself. So why don't we wrap this up and talk a little bit about masculine polarity, and then we'll call it a day. So here's what I'll leave you with, and then we'll get into this tomorrow. Masculine polarity and feminine polarity. And we're going to describe it briefly and get more into it tomorrow. Typically, a very attractive woman is going to respond more to a guy who has that really strong reality, a stronger reality than her. With women, the very attractive woman, she will... Okay, here's what's funny. Here's what you're going to realize in life. Most women really don't have a very strong reality at all, even the really attractive ones. But compared to a chode on the street, her reality is devastating. Devastatingly strong. That's really what it's going to come down to, all right? That's what you're going to realize in this. You see, when you come into this, you think, wow, like you will feel the weight of her beliefs coming down on you when you're talking to a really attractive woman. But eventually you're going to realize it was all in my head, okay? But point being, right now you may be in a mindset where speaking to an attractive woman feels like you're being pulled into her reality. And a woman is not going to respond to that. So look, what then does it mean to have masculine polarity? All right? Well, masculine polarity is this. Okay, first I will give you my esoteric definition. You guys in the mood for esoteric definition? Yeah. All right, okay. The esoteric definition is this. Masculine polarity is your grounding amidst the emotional chaos. It is the magnet that draws women towards you in the form of your deepest self-esteem. Okay, so what the heck does that mean? All right? It is a total trust in your faculties and your ability to determine reality. And here are the examples that I give to you. Here are the examples that I pass by to you to percolate in your minds till tomorrow. 1, acting only through your own intentions. 2, being entirely uncontrollable and above manipulation. 3, dictating the reality around you rather than being affected by it. Next, being in the moment and walking through the world with ease. Next, having absolutely no intimidation of the girl or the world whatsoever. Next, tapping into the energy inside you, not around you, as a source of your mood. And lastly, feeling no spikes or lulls of self-esteem from any girl's responses to you. You might gain or lose attraction, but it does not affect your sense of who you are. Okay? Now look, think about this. And let's end the day on this. What does acting through your own intentions mean? Because isn't it funny that I can talk to a guy about acting through their own intentions, and they'll say, I get it, right? I get it. But then when I get them to move through the world, they're not doing it. Let me give you an example. I had a guy on boot camp. We're both sitting here. We're seated. There's a girl at the end of the couch. Or no, she's on the couch right beside the end of the couch. I say, okay, here's what acting through your own intentions is. You do what you want to do. You don't worry about responses. He says, okay, I get it. Okay? I say, okay, now you're going to talk to that girl. He says, okay. So he walks over, sits on the couch like this, kind of waits for a second for the right timing to make the right move, and then eventually decides to start talking. First of all, if you're a cute girl, can you tell what that is?
Yeah.
Right? Did that work in his favor?
No.
Okay. Right? Aren't we silly people, right? Aren't we all silly? We all do it sometimes. Now, if he was acting through his own intentions, what would he have done?
Start talking.
Walk straight towards her. There's an amazing vibe that you can find yourself in when you're really acting through your own intentions, guys. You can really feel it. You're acting through your own intentions. So you're walking through the nightclub or the restaurant or wherever you are, and you're doing what you want to do. All right? You're not walking around value scanning or looking around. You're acting through your own intentions and doing what you want to do. And you feel very rooted in your own power. And when you do this, and when you're acting through your own intentions, that is like a giant light bulb around a group of moths. Okay? Really. That is like you are the donut rolling down the street in Ethiopia. Okay? You know what I'm saying? You are the Lord, okay? When you're acting through your own intentions, okay? Buddy Alex, this time from RC, he says, I do what I want, when I want, mate. All right? He's from Australia. So I had the mate. Thing is, you do what you want, when you want. So you see that girl, and there's something very masculine about the I see, I take type attitude. I see, I take. Like a little kid, an incorrigible kid, a cute little kid who just cannot help it. He can't help himself, okay? He does what he wants, when he wants. Alex is crazy. Who here knows Alex? Couple?
Yeah.
Crazy?
Throwing stuff off the roof yesterday.
Throwing stuff out the roof yesterday. I know. He's crazy, all right? Okay? Crazy, okay? This is the guy who, his biggest challenge, okay? His biggest sticking point in his game right now is that he does what he wants so much that he'll go over the top. Like he's got this girl back in his hotel, and he just is amusing himself constantly. And he's like, come here, you minger. And then he's like, you are fat. She's like, I'm not fat. He's like, you will be when my dick is in you. Okay, right? Okay, that is Alex's sticking point. Okay, all right. Guys are like, yeah, right, yeah, when my dick is in you. Okay, so look, the thing is, that's called acting through your own attention and being self-amusing. All right. And being in the moment, walking through the world with ease, dictating the energy around you rather than being affected by it. Okay? I guess at the back you're like, oh man, that Alex is so crazy. Look, you dictate it. You bring the energy. Okay? So look, when you see a group of guys, like you ever see the show Entourage? That is a great show for guys to watch because you see these shots of like Vince Chase and all his buddies kind of walking around and they're having their own fun and you see everyone going, like that, right? Now, of course, he's a celebrity, kind of cheating, but you could imagine in a lot of ways that they have that exact same vibe back in Queens where they came from, at least the characters, okay? That is the vibe of a cool group of guys. They're creating the energy within their own group and dictating it around them. They're bringing the party. They're creating their own fun. That is what I want you guys to be doing. Look, when you guys go out tonight, today's Friday, many of you are going to go out. Don't go out going, okay, we've got to practice all this blueprint stuff like, okay, so phase 1, we've got to act through our own intentions. Okay, look, I've got it on the notes. Okay, the notes say that's step 1. All right, there's an operative term for this. Whenever you think of any complicated explanation, there's 2 little words that you can use to simplify it. You know what they are? Have fun. Very simple. Have fun. Okay, have fun, guys. When you're out with your friends, have fun within your own groups. Get rowdy. Have fun. Have your own conversation. If you don't want to be rowdy, have your own interesting conversation going. If you don't even want to have a conversation, then feel good in the silence. But whatever it is, have fun. That is what masculine polarity is, all right? That is like you're tapping into the energy inside you, not trying to suck off the energy around you as a source for your mood. You feel no spikes or lulls in your self-esteem based on the woman's responses to you. Okay? So look, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up day 2. Because, like I said, in day 1, we went about 25% beneath the surface. And today we went maybe another 25% deeper. And tomorrow we're about to go a lot deeper, okay? Because we're not even half done yet. And look, what we got out of it, like yesterday, we kind of painted almost like the pain of it all, right? Like yesterday was sort of like a painful portrait, the social conditioning, the kind of haunting aspect of RAS and rationalization and things like that, right? Things that can happen with love. So we talked about that yesterday. And today, we talked about moving out of that, right? Moving out of that. We talked about how situational confidence can be evolved past and leading towards core confidence. We talked about strong reality and about no longer walking through the world with your eyes closed, unconscious, looking to other people and looking to secondhand experience in order to find your sense of reality. And today, what we talked about is opening your eyes and looking at the world through firsthand experience. We talked about masculine polarity. We talked about finding your reality and coming into your power. And so what I want from you guys tonight, in the same way we said yesterday, we said, look at the ways that you act, when you have all of that backup, right? When you have the, the role plays or the power and stuff like that. Today, when you go out tonight, what I would love for you is to look at the world through your own eyes and through a fresh set of eyes. And when you look around, don't look at what other people are doing to decide on what you're going to do. And don't think about what other people are thinking beyond being considerate when you decide how you want to act. All right? Because I want you guys to be free. I want you guys to spread your wings. I guess that is what today is all about. It's about spreading your wings. I could really say that. Okay? Bringing that out of yourself. Like I said, you have to dig deep in and pull that out of yourself to see those seeds kind of blossom. So I want to thank you guys for coming out. And tomorrow, we're getting more advanced. We're moving forward. And this is going to go deeper and deeper until it gets out of control. So thank you for attending day 2. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.